Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Neon. I am here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
And we're going to do another Star Wars video. We're going to talk more about things that George Lucas has said very recently about Star Wars, and his opinion of Disney Star Wars seems very different than Kathleen Kennedy's and Leslie Headland's opinion, especially when it comes to women in Star Wars.
I have so many thoughts.
George Lucas is saying, hey, there have always been strong women in Star Wars. He seems actually rather annoyed that this keeps coming up, and we're going to talk about this in this very special episode of Clownfish TV.
Right, so grab your butts and some popcorn and maybe some earplugs, because I may yell at this one. I may.
So please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. You'll get a woohoo if you do.
Woohoo.
Go out to Indiegogo, back the Shadowbinders Volume 3 re-offer campaign, and we're also going to try to reprint books 1 and 2. You've got almost 2 weeks left on this. It's doing pretty good, so thank you very much for the support. We're going to bring you more comics and more stuff. So let's talk about this.
Okay, so I have so many things to say. So there's a clip, I think it was at Cons, and it was George Lucas talking about women in Star Wars. And this whole narrative, and we're seeing it from Kathleen Kennedy, we talked about it yesterday, that women need to be put, it needs to be focused more on women in Star Wars, because women have been cut out of Star Wars, and they don't like Star Wars and that we have to change that, which is a load of shit. And I talked about that yesterday. Well, vindication is here because George Lucas also kind of says that's a load of BS.
Yeah, and this is after George Lucas made some other comments about Disney Star Wars, and he basically said that it's they don't seem to understand how the Force works, and I think a lot of it, I'm gonna be honest, I think a lot of this is low key throwing shade at the Acolyte. I don't think he's real happy with it because they're gonna go back and try to retcon the Force, as I understand it, and change a lot of things about the nature of the Force and the history of the Jedi, and I don't think George is real thrilled with it.
No. So yeah, there's a clip going around. He made some comments about it. I'm just tired of hearing this. Is Star Wars usually male-centric as far as the audience is concerned? Yes. That does not mean that there aren't a lot of women that have liked Star Wars for years. So that doesn't mean that women were kept out of Star Wars, because we weren't. Actually, I've seen more gatekeeping bullshit towards women now than I've ever seen with Star Wars. Because if you don't like Disney Star Wars, you're a misogynist and they just step over you. There's, it's awful. There's so much gatekeeping. It's terrible. When I was a kid, I liked Star Wars. Nobody thought anything of it. Like, oh, that's cool because women went. Women like Star Wars. Everybody watched the same things. Not a big deal. But now I'm told right and left that I'm an internalized misogynist, that I'm a bigot and I'm a horrible person because I don't like their lame-ass characters in their new movie that are just there for agenda, and it's obvious that's why they're there. They're poorly written. They're sad.
Yeah, this whole narrative is sad, and it's really starting to fall apart. I think George, I think contractually he's not allowed to throw shade at Disney. He's been attacking Disney pretty much since day one, right? But then he kind of backs off for a while, and then when they announce a new project, he kind of ramps up the salt again. It
seems like I'm wondering if his NDA is up, because he's saying an awful lot. Like, he hasn't said that much. Here and there make comments, but now he's like letting the shit fly.
Well, he was making comments right after he sold after the first movie, and he infamously went on Charlie Rose and said that he admits he sold his characters, but he's like, yeah, I sold my children to white slavers, and this is what happens. But he's made many, many comments. They keep trying to spin like, oh, George is involved. He loves it. He loves this. He's been on set.
Doesn't sound like it to me.
I saw a picture of him on set on the set of The Mandalorian holding Grogu, and he kind of looked out like, yeah. Whatever.
No, I think he actually doesn't mind The Mandalorian so much. It doesn't seem like it to me, but that doesn't mean he likes Disney Star Wars in general and overall.
I don't think they're trying to spin it like Dave Filoni was his handpicked choice to lead Lucasfilm going forward creatively, and that's the narrative but I have not seen George come out and been like, yeah, everything Dave Filoni does is canon.
But to be fair, he put Kathleen Kennedy in.
He did. People forget that. He actually picked Kathleen Kennedy, and I, honest to God, thought she was a good choice at the time because I'm like, her name is on so many movies that we loved. I'm like, she gets it. She's been doing this for a long time. Nah.
No, here's the thing. If you took away, it's the stupid narrative pushing.
Yeah.
If you just told good stories, that'd be different. But you're so busy trying to push narratives. And with Star Wars, it's definitely women and minorities, and that they never liked Star Wars. They never were included in Star Wars, even though it's not true. Because even if you go by the original trilogy, you know, there was inclusion. But even the prequels and that, every time they got more and more inclusion. The books definitely show all kinds of stuff like that. It's a load of shit. So here's what he said. So we'll listen to the clip. It's from Star Wars Theory.
He said, there's no women in the movies. I said, who do you think the heroes are in those films? What do you think Princess Leia was? She is the head of the rebellion. She's the one that's taking this young kid that doesn't know anything.
He seems annoyed.
Boisterous, I know everything guy who can't do anything, trying to save the rebellion with these clowns.
Yeah, you know, that's like getting the garbage chute flyboy and stuff like that. And, you know, and she's like, aren't you a little short for a stormtrooper and all that? You know, so yeah, it's true.
The hero of the movie. It's the same thing with Queen Amidala. Even though she has Jedi on her side, she was still a hero prime mover. You can't just put a woman in pants and expect her to be a hero. They can wear dresses, they can wear whatever they want. It's their brains and their ability to think and plan and be logistical. That's what the hero is.
Oh, yeah, that's...
I love how he's like, you don't have to stick a woman in pants and say she's a hero. Because we have seen this trend. And how many times have we called this out? You give them short hair, half-shaved head. You put them in, you know, make sure they have little boobs, or like they strap them down, or they put them in a tank top with, like, they're all muscular, and they're like, look, I'm basically a dude.
Yeah.
But that's the female lead. And
shave their head.
Yeah, half-shaved
Put them in
head.
cargo pants. Strap their boobs down with man armor.
It's just getting old. People have been calling it out for a while, and he's just like, you know, they were like the ones kind of guiding it. They were heroes, you know, heroes of the story. The rebellion was led by women. You had, you know, Leia, Mon Mothma, and different people.
Women in dresses.
Yeah, the rebellion. And no one thought anything of it, because being in a dress doesn't mean you can't be a hero or a leader. I'm so tired of this narrative that you have to wear pants to be bullshit. Apparently he thinks it's ridiculous too. In my article, I talk about the problems we have at Lucasfilm going on now. They're making these comments. And I was like, but there's definitely an agenda. We have the Force is female shit with the shirts. You know, we had Obi-Wan Kenobi. If nothing else proves that there is a definitive agenda at Lucasfilm to make it about women, Obi-Wan Kenobi is the proof of that.
Yeah.
Clearly. I mean, they had scripts and they all were scrapped because, you know, differences and all that stuff, creative differences.
And
they put Leia. There's nothing against little Leia actress, because you hate Leia. No, fuck you. It's not about the little Leia actress.
Not to the actress.
No, the people making the comments.
Yeah, she was cute. She was a cute kid. I don't mind
her. I would watch a show about her with her as Leia
and her dad.
And there's a show that was about to be about her, and I have no problem with her at all. I think she's cute.
Alderaan Adventures or something.
But
yeah.
Obi-Wan Kenobi. Obi-Wan had a job, and it was to watch over Luke. And they took Luke out of play. They had him in there a little bit, but he kind of like, oh, look, he gets hurt. They took him out of play to put little Leia in there and make it about Leia, which makes no sense whatsoever to continuity even.
This whole thing, I mean, this is one of the few shows I actually was looking forward to on some level, because I do like the prequels. And I've said before, I like the prequels. Yeah, are there some things that could have been polished? Absolutely. But I did like Ewan McGregor. I liked Hayden Christensen. I actually wanted to see this. And yeah, immediately they just like destroyed the canon. I'm like, there's no indication whatsoever in the original trilogy that Leia even knew who Ben Kenobi was, other than her dad telling her about Ben.
Like you brought up, even when he gets killed, like, you know, Luke's upset, and she doesn't even seem to be like,
no, she's like,
sorry, your friend died.
Yeah, sorry your friend died. Let's go kick some ass now.
She wasn't like, oh, it's Obi-Wan, my friend too, you know?
Right.
It doesn't make any sense, because it's all about shoving, you know, women, or like, you know, these different, whatever they think's being neglected, even though it's not true. And I'm tired of it. We had the whole Galaxy of Adventure where she like slaps him in the face, and they retconned it, and that she's the one saving them and blasting people and shooting them across swinging them across.
Hoth, they had her leading the troops on Hoth.
And other stuff happened.
You know, Han Solo was trying to get her out of there, and they had her like on the battlefield leading the troops on Hoth. I'm like, that is not what happened.
No. And they're just trying to push this narrative, and I'm sorry. You can sit there and tell me the cows come home. It's not true. Please, I can't wait for the dudes to tell me it's not true, because that always inevitably happens. Usually followed by I'm an internalized misogynist, and then they call me a word that rhymes with runt that starts with a C. Because they're going to show me how I'm a misogynist, then proceed to act like a misogynist. I'm so tired of it. I'm so fucking over it. There is no doubt there is an agenda going on about this stuff. It is so obvious.
Oh, yeah.
Saying it doesn't exist is a flat out lie. They had the picture of Luke Skywalker's face being crossed off. Now, they said that was because the cubicle was imperial themed or something like that, which might have been the case. But you let it on camera, it was a bad look. And then the way you guys treated him in the films, bad look. And you got a lot of, renewed interest in The Mandalorian when you brought Luke back.
Proper Luke Skywalker.
And made him Luke.
That's all people want. Like, seriously, if you had at least shown Luke being Luke at some point in the trilogy, the sequel trilogy, I think people's opinions would have changed somewhat, but they destroyed. There was definitely a concerted effort to destroy Luke Skywalker and elevate Leia. And Leia already was incredibly important, but they basically had to make sure she had to be the one to train Rey. And
they kept this narrative. Well, I mean, honestly, Leia having Jedi training makes sense, but who trained her? I guess Luke apparently, and in the books he did. But it's just like they just kept going out of their way to sideline Luke, because we're trying to make women the center now. Thing is, you're misunderstanding that a lot of women like Star Wars and they like Luke Skywalker, and it's the same stupidity where you can't play a character that isn't like you, and you can't relate to a character that isn't like you either. Fuck you! I can relate to whoever I want to, and you can kiss my ass. Because a lot of times I like action movies, science fiction movies, and there are women in them, and a lot of times there are men in them, and a lot of times they relate more to the male characters than the female characters. And I am a girl. I like sparkly things. I am definitely girly and feminine. And I still am like, nope. I like that character the best. That's my favorite character. I don't have to only like a character that looks like me. That's stupid. Who acts like me. That's stupid.
Yeah, I've never. I mean, I get to some degree. People are like, yeah, why is it that is whatever? This is too whatever. I get that to some degree, but this is you can like a character regardless of race or gender or and. There definitely is something going on.
Well, then they had Rose Tico and Holdo show up out of nowhere, and they literally were just there to school Poe and Finn.
Yeah.
Like, you had Poe and Finn, who they made, they made them terrible characters. Like, suddenly Finn's a coward and Poe's an arrogant asshole for no reason, which wasn't like them on the first time around, just so you can insert these two characters who are women to show them, because they need these women to take charge and show them the way. It's like, this is stupid. And I've got tits and I think it's stupid. I'm so tired of hearing it. Then there's that whole narrative that, guys, women and people of color just didn't go to the movies like the other people did. Fuck you. Bullshit. Here's a bunch of people that went to the openings. I see a shit ton of women.
Yeah. Okay, so back in the day, and this is what's so weird about this. Back in the day, there were a lot of women in science fiction. There were a lot of women in Star Trek fandom. There were a lot of women in fantasy. There were a lot of women working in, I guess, the science fiction comic book industry. Not necessarily in superhero comics, but we had a lot of female fantasy writers. We had a lot of women working on science fiction shows. Some of the biggest fans of science fiction were women. So yeah, when Star Wars was new science fiction, a lot of women came out to support it.
There's chicks in all these pictures. Like, you can see, and there's women and stuff. But this is a guy, obviously. But there's women in the pictures. Like, we got some girls here.
Yeah.
It's just there's women all around. There's women here. Like, every time the Jedi are waiting in line, there are a bunch of women.
Yeah, and even video games. Like, I'm thinking back to the 80s and even the marketing back then. Look at all those women. But I'm thinking back to the marketing in the 80s for, like, Atari. It was...
Asian woman.
Oh, my God. No, that's impossible. Woman. Luke Skywalker doesn't look anything like her. She can't like that. But no, I mean, I remember even video games, they keep changing this narrative that's always just for dudes or whatever, but... Atari commercials, if you look at any of the old Atari commercials back in the early 80s, they sold it as a family console. Mm-hmm. They actually had commercials where just mothers and daughters were playing together. They had non-white families playing Atari. They wanted everybody to buy it. And Star Wars was the same way back then. It was like, we want everybody to come to this movie.
Yeah, that's pretty much what
Everybody did. That's why it was a huge cultural phenomenon.
But they keep saying that, like, women, women weren't important, in these movies and stuff. And they keep talking about, like, Star Wars, for example. But George Lucas has always had women be important characters in his stuff. Like, for example, the first Star Wars movie was edited by his wife, who basically made it like good. She's the one that took it, and it was kind of a mess, and she's the one who made it good. And she was like throwing shade a couple years ago that J.J. Abrams and the films don't have a direction, don't have a clue.
Yeah, that's pretty damning, because I don't know what kind of relationship she has with George at this point. She kind of got, and I feel bad for her because she kind of got left in the dust.
Yeah, which is crap.
But yeah, she saved Star Wars. I mean, it's pretty much, and ask anybody that was around, that the first cut of Star Wars was a disaster, and she came in, she tightened it up, she cut some scenes. Some of those scenes still wound up in the storybooks, but it was a disaster, and she made it work. And and she's coming out and saying that Disney doesn't have a clue. So
in some ways, the original Star Wars, the vision was partially a woman.
Yeah.
The direction was partially a woman. Then we have, his other franchises. For example, Indiana Jones. Marion kicked all kinds of ass. She was another chick that was a strong female character, and she was, basically, she kicked as much ass, drunk people under the table. She was just and she was still feminine, and she was still a woman, but she was strong, and she was, just as smart as Indiana Jones was.
Yeah.
And then over at Willow, you brought this up.
Yeah, so I was thinking about that this morning, actually, before we recorded. I'm like, yeah, everybody's talking about, all the women in Willow and the TV series. I'm like, no, think back to the movie. The movie, half the cast and the most powerful characters in the movie were women, but they didn't, he wasn't out there, drawing attention to it, but that Morta, Elora Danan, Sorsha, Finn Raziel, they were all powerful women, and the whole story was centered around Elora Danan. She was a baby then, but you know what I'm saying? And that was before they were like, well, but now we have to introduce more women into Willow. I'm like, bitch, please. There were lots of strong women in Willow.
I'm so tired of this stupid narrative. And then what's going on is a bunch of idiots who don't know what the hell they're talking about, just keep repeating it like it's fact. Case in point, this lovely piece of,
oh my God. Yeah.
So, I'm not going to play it, but this is somebody who's from the Acolyte. And I do legitimately think he got it confused. I think he was meaning Luke.
Yeah, I think when you're put in a spot, you must. I mean, we do that too. We record, we do live. Sometimes you've got one thing, and he was talking about Darth Vader, so he probably was thinking.
Basically, what he was basically saying was Darth Vader was evil, and yes, it was established. But I think he was saying, but then Luke, he said Anakin. But I think he obviously meant Luke, blew up the Death Star. What about all those people on the Death Star that he killed? And I think the idea is what's good and what's evil, because, if Vader's bad, but isn't Luke just as bad because he blew up a bunch of people on Death Star, I think is the mentality. That is a Leslie Headland thing, because she's basically going on about how we're going to re-examine what the Force is and what's good and evil, and maybe from a different standpoint, different viewpoint, they're the good guys. And this is all coming from her. And he was like, well, somebody who's new, basically a new fan, you're just regurgitating what she's telling him. I think that's what's going on. You have a bunch of new Star Wars fans and this current year mentality, and they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. They weren't around back then, but so-and-so told them women were kept out. So-and-so told them women were gatekept. So-and-so told them women didn't like Star Wars till now, and people of color didn't like Star Wars till now. And they just keep doubling down on this stupidity without even actually knowing what the fuck they're talking about.
It's like, did you know there were no black people in Star Wars until current year? It's like, Lando, Mace was the second most powerful Jedi on the council. And he's the one that almost got Palpatine. And
there's no diversity in Star Wars, except most of it's aliens, which is supposed to be diversity, because you can't, the diversity in Star Wars can't just be a humanoid diversity. That doesn't make any sense. You're talking about a galaxy far, far away with a bunch of different aliens and planets. They can't all look like people, and they all, and there's a brown one, and there's, a green one, and there's a yellow one. You know what I mean?
Well, that was something else that George Lucas said.
But they're all like people.
Yeah, he said, because they asked him and this is the school Zoom chat or whatever he did. It was a school in Harlem, I think. And it was middle school. It was like during the pandemic. And this is one where he kind of got himself in trouble because he said that, his Star Wars is 6 movies. Whatever Disney does to him, it's not his Star Wars. But they were asking him about diversity. And he's like, I had a bunch of aliens. We had all kinds of aliens from all over the galaxy. And they have all kinds of different beliefs.
And that's something else. Like, originally Star Wars, like the stormtroopers and stuff, even before they started with the clones, they all seem to tend to be white people or like humanoid people because they were supposed to be bigoted against other alien races and stuff like that originally. And then they changed it with the clones and all that crap. But I'm just saying, it's like, it just keeps altering and altering. And it went from that to they're all clones to now, there's stormtroopers there. They need more troopers. So they all joined up and they're like, now there's just all different races and stuff. And it's just, every time Disney touches it, everything gets messed up.
Yeah, and that seems to be what he's saying. Now, I don't ever see George Lucas coming back to Star Wars. There are all these rumors that he's going to come back. The guy's, almost...
He wouldn't be talking shit like he is if he was going to come back.
Yeah, I think, because if he came back, I think he'd probably be like, okay, so all the stuff you've done over the last 10 years, with the exception of maybe Rogue One, let's just burn it down. Because none of this is what I want.
But I don't think he's going to be able to do that. And he knows that because Disney's not going to flush their stuff.
No, but they already flushed it. But he also sold it. And he's admitted that. And that's the thing. He keeps saying, like, basically, he's like, yeah, I'm not happy with it, but I sold it. There's not much I can do about it. I chose to sell, but I think he has massive seller's remorse at this point.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I'm just tired of it. I'm tired of hearing that this is not happening. It's the gaslighting is ridiculous. I'm tired of being told women were kept out of Star Wars when I know for a fact that wasn't true because I was there for not like I was too little to go to the original movie, but I was around when I was a kid when they were having other movies. It was never like that. Like when I was a kid in elementary school and stuff, everybody was excited about. Now, granted, I was real little, like when Jedi came out and stuff, but. Everybody wanted the toys, and at recess, when you'd be staying indoors, the girls would be playing with the Star Wars toys the same as the boys. Like nobody cared. Like back then, boys had Cabbage Patch Kids and Care Bears, and girls played with Star Wars toys and He-Man, and I loved Mask, and nobody cared. Like this whole idea, this narrative is just they're just trying to rewrite history, like they keep trying to retcon everything else, and I'm so fucking tired of it. But saying that women were kept out is bullshit. And this whole idea, I agree with him, saying that there were no strong women in Star Wars is a load of shit, and that women don't have to be wearing pants and look like a dude to be a strong female character.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, guys. This is all
insulting.
This is all preemptive damage control because they know this show's going to be a disaster, but the show's going to be a disaster not because of the bigots and the misogynists and the racists. The show's going to be a disaster because normies have checked out. Nobody cares about Star Wars. And
they're afraid what they're going to do to it. They keep touting, we're going to rewrite everything and change everything.
We're going to change the nature of the Force.
Why? No. And they're down there and they're like, so it's going to be more of the same. Okay, I don't care.
Yeah, they've already shown that they don't give a shit about canon. So whatever. Now we've got these canon defenders out there being like, well, none of the expanded universe was canon either. It was never canon.
Somebody tried to get into me with that the other day.
And yeah, I know. And it's like, well, no, because actually the expanded universe was done on George's watch, and George did have the right to supersede any of it because his movies were G canon. That was like the top level of canon. But like technically, nothing Disney has done is canon either, because if true Star Wars canon is only what George Lucas himself has done, then absolutely nothing that Disney has done is canon.
I like when they were trying to tell me like, the books and stuff weren't, even though George Lucas was involved with them, but he even took Coruscant and put it in the movies because he liked it so much.
Yeah.
But that wasn't canon until it is. Anyway, I'm just tired of it. It's just you're telling your audience you don't want them, and then you're mad at them for not coming. And you keep people know what Star Wars was for years. Now you're like, well, that's not what it is now. And then you're like, but why won't they come? I'm like, I don't know. I wonder.
Yeah.
But women, why would the old school women want to come? Because they basically didn't exist anyway. Thank God for the new ones. Know what the hell they're talking about.
Yeah, Disney doesn't know how to make women come. That's the problem. That's the problem.
Well, that you see the box office and it's been mostly male.
Yeah.
And they want women in the male-dominated Star Wars franchise, but their idea of making women come to the movie is to throw shitty narrative and half-assed female characters in there, just be like, look, we got gals and they're in charge.
Maybe if they weren't wearing pants, it would be easier.
Maybe.
I'm just saying.
Are you done with this bad joke?
I am. I'm done with this bad joke. But no, you're right. I mean, this is just so pathetic. He just seems annoyed. Like, I think you're right.
I'm annoyed too.
Something has happened with George Lucas. He has snapped. And
yeah, I don't know what happened, but definitely a shift.
Maybe he was. Maybe there were rumors that he was talking to Disney about coming back in some capacity. Maybe they were talking to him. Maybe it fell through, and maybe he's just like, you know what? If you're going to change the nature of the Force and say that I never had strong female characters, then piss off. I'm 80 years old or whatever he is now, and he's probably like, I don't give a shit.
What are you going to do about it?
What are you going to do about it? You know, you can't shut me up anymore. What are you going to do about it? Yeah, I would do the same thing.
Oh, I know you would. You would have done it way before now.
Absolutely.
Anyway, we're going to wrap this up.
We're going to wrap this up. Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. We'll talk later.
Bye.